All right, welcome back. So today we are going to be talking about solving linear inequalities. So we have to remember that when we're solving inequalities, it's basically just like solving an equation with, a few extra rules that we need to follow. The properties are, we can add to both sides, and that keeps it the equivalent inequality. Whatever we do to one side, we have to do the other, the basic idea here. So multiplying or dividing both sides by the same positive number gives us an equivalent inequality. And then multiplying or dividing both sides of an inequality by the same negative number gives an equivalent inequality with the direction of the inequality reversed. So that's the big thing. When we multiply or divide by a negative number, we got to flip that inequality. We cannot forget that. So one of the other things we're going to talk about today is interval notation. So we're going to start practicing writing things in interval notation. So hopefully by comparing it to inequalities in a number line, you'll see that these aren't too bad to work with. So the basic way to write them is that you have a starting value and you have an ending value. And notice there's parentheses around it. So those parentheses.
This is the last call for food. Last call for the food truck.
We don't need to make videos. We just got to have announcements about the food truck out front, apparently. All right, so parentheses means that we do not include that number. So that's what the parentheses mean. So we'll think of those like less than or greater than, or an open circle on the graph. Now, if there was brackets right here, so if I made a bracket right here and a bracket right here, that means we would include those numbers. That would be like less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to, or a closed circle on the graph. Now, if it shoots off forever in one direction, whether it be positive infinity or negative infinity, we use the infinity symbol. So we never use brackets on infinity. So infinity, whenever we write it, should only have a parenthesis by it because we can't include infinity because it's not really a number. It's, forever. All right, so now we are going to look at these number lines. And the first thing is, let's start off and write this first one as an inequality. So we have to do a compound inequality here. But this is saying x is greater than negative 5 and x is less than or equal to 7. Do we see that? Because of the open circle here, that's why it's greater than, and the closed circle at 7, and that's why that's less than or equal to. Now, if we want to write this in interval notation, pretty simple. We start off with a parenthesis because the first number is negative 5, and we don't want to include it. And we go all the way up to 7, and we put a bracket on that because we want to include the 7. So those three things all mean the same thing, just different ways of writing it. Interval notation, once you get used to it, I think you'll really like it because it just kind of speeds up writing out like domains and ranges and stuff. It makes it very helpful. So that next one, notice we got negative 5 in a closed circle, and it goes on forever. So in inequality form, that would be x is greater than or equal to 5, right? So that means it goes on forever. Now, if we want to write an interval notation, we're going to start at negative 5. And I put up a square bracket because the circle is closed. And this goes on forever. So I put infinity. Remember, parenthesis only by infinity. We don't want these brackets on infinity or negative infinity. This last one here, we want to write that as an inequality. X is less than 0, right? Because it goes forever to the left. Now, if we want to write this in interval notation, notice it goes forever into the negatives. So we're going to negative infinity first. So parenthesis, negative infinity. And we go up to 0. And I use a parenthesis on the 0 to just show that we don't include 0. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, so we need to be able to solve linear inequalities. And I think everybody here has done this probably a ton of times, and it's super easy, hopefully at least. All right, so we've got to work backwards in the order of operations. So with A, I'm going to add 3 to both sides. And now I have what? Negative 2x is less than negative 5, right? So now I got to divide everything by negative 2. So I have x's. I got to be careful here. Since I'm dividing by a negative, I have to flip the inequality. X is greater than 5 halves. There's our answer as an inequality. So let's do this as an interval notation. So we start off at 5 halves, but we do not include it. And it goes forever up. Remember, parentheses only on infinity and negative infinity. So 2 ways to write that solution. All right, so with B, we want to get all the x's to one side, numbers to the other. It's all for x. So I think, I don't know, it doesn't really matter which way we go. I guess just to practice the negatives a little bit more, I want to put negative 5x here. I'm going to subtract 5x here. Now I'm going to go and get all the numbers to the right. So I'm going to add 7 here and add 7 here. So that's going to give me negative 3x is greater than or equal to 11. Now I'm just going to divide everything by negative 3. And since I'm dividing by a negative, I need to flip my inequality. So negative 11 thirds. So now let's write that one as interval notation. So since this is going forever down, we're going to put negative infinity here. And we're going to go up to negative 11 thirds. Since it has an equal sign, we want to use a square bracket. See, super easy. All right, so same type of problems again. We're just practicing these skills a little bit more. So with A, we got to get rid of the parentheses. Let's distribute. That's going to give us 6x minus 4. We got less than 5. Now I got to distribute this negative sign. So we'd have negative 4 plus x. All right, so now let's combine like terms. So we got 6x minus 4 is less than or equal to 5 minus 4 is 1 plus x. So let's move all the x's to the left and move the numbers to the right. Oops. Plus 4. So that gives us 5x is less than or equal to 5. So now let's divide everything by 5. And we get x is less than or equal to 1. Now the instructions did say to graph them. I mean, graphing's super simple on a number line. So less than or equal to 1. There's 1. So should have done the last one. Closed circle, shade to the left. I mean, the shading on a number line should be really easy because the inequality points in the direction you should shade. All right, so let's write this guy out in interval notation now. So it goes down forever and up to a 1, and we must include the 1. All right. Fun stuff, right? So let's take a look at B now. So with B, I'm not a big fan of fractions. I like to clear out the fractions if I'm solving an equation. So what we would do, we just look at it and say, all right, what would our common denominator be? And you guys would say, well, we need a common denominator of 6. I say, great. So that's what we're going to do. Instead of getting a common denominator, I'm just going to multiply each term by 6. So 6 times 1/2 x is 3x. 6 times negative 2/3 x would be negative 4x. Greater than 6 times a third is 2 plus 6x. So x times 6 is 6x. So 3x minus 4 is negative 1x. Greater than 2 plus 6x. So now, I'm just going to go and subtract the 6x to give us a little more practice with dividing by a negative. So that's going to give me negative 7. X is greater than 2. Divide everything by a negative 7. Remember, since I'm dividing by a negative, I need to flip my inequality. So I got negative 2/7. So x must be less than or equal to negative 2/7. So again, number line. Here's negative 2/7. Closed circle, shade to the left. Done. Now we want to write this as an inequality. We would say, well, it's going down forever. And it goes up to negative 2/7. And we want to include that. So we put a square bracket there.